Welcome to yet another interesting edition of the Damascus Encounter. On this program, we bring you wonderful experiences that people have as they encountered Jesus and their lives took a dramatic turn. In the last couple weeks, we have had Pastor Sunday Didam Audu, who is a pastor of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, how he became a pastor and how he encountered Jesus through the reading of the book, The Final War. No other interception but books brought him to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, believing in the day of worship. Today, we conclude the part of his story of what transpired after he gave his life, after he submitted, and after he made up his mind, I will serve the Lord. Pastor Sunday Didam Audu, welcome to the Damascus Encounter yet again.
Thank you very much, Femi, for having me here again.
Always a delight. Always a delight. So let's move on with this story. God simply was just not done with you. You had that family meeting. You walked away with a resolution to remain Seventh-day Adventist. So what happened after this? Did you have to leave the house, or how did you move on from?
Okay. The reality dawned on me that I was going to make a clean break of all I have known in terms of my experience in worship.
Exactly.
It dawned on me that my family is already affected by this decision. No one supporting me, except that elder cousin of mine, who I introduced the message to, who was later blamed for leading me on. You. But I had to explain at the family meeting that he was not. And it was also a sobering reality that all the church leaders I had known all my life, the priests, the reverends, the archdeacons, the bishops, a kind of that, and that was really a challenge that I have disappointed them. They came, they talked to me, some came to my house where I was living. The quarters are located by the Anglican Church, and some tried to explain things to me, but not a single one of them showed me a text from the Bible that says anything otherwise, that the Sabbath is not the day of rest, that the Sabbath is not the Sabbath of the Lord, none. Only appeal to my sentiments, we are mentoring you, you are such and such and such, we'll be disappointed. In fact, one, after persuading me unsuccessfully, went to my mother. Of course, my mother would believe them being pastors, priests, reverends. So they say, the Seventh-day Adventists, they are a cult. What they do is that they will take in your son. After 7 years, they make him extremely wealthy. He will be very rich. The 7th year, he will be asked to sacrifice you. That broke my mother. Okay? And it was a trying moment for her and for me too. Remember I said then my father was no more. Yeah. So, my uncles were the ones. So pretty much we had to struggle with her until that family meeting when she let go. I had to pack out of the facilities of the Anglican Church. The Seventh-day Adventist Church, a small church, just a branch Sabbath school, not even an organized church. They organized a vehicle to pack my things to the parsonage. The pastor gave me a room, just a small space where I put my things. And so that was how the pastor took me in. For about a month, I stayed with him until one day we went for worship. The publishing director of the mission then, it was the North Nigeria Mission. That was in the year 1990. I was introduced to another gentleman called a literature evangelist. I didn't really understand how those things worked in those days. Always in his shirt, well tucked in, his necktie, and always moving a bag around, looking very clean and neat and executive in nature. So the publishing director came. After Sabbath school, he was introduced that he was going to talk to the church. And so he brought up the young man who was the literature evangelist, and he made a few comments about the young man and asked the young man to share his testimonies of his experience in Kafanchan town in Kaduna State. Okay. And so the gentleman shared his experiences. For me, that would be the first time I could see something like that. Yes. Remember, from the Christian Farmers Association, we were reaching out to Fulani, Muslim farmers and other people in the community with agri products and literature. Except on outreaches, people pretty much just came to the office to pick the literature, or while buying the agri inputs, we gave them literature. So it was not really strange, but I saw it from a new dimension in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. It was an intentional, well-focused ministry. So this young man gave his testimony, well, and thereafter, the publishing director, God bless him, that elderly pastor, Elisha Kimba, I will not forget his name. Okay. So he came up and talked and encouraged people in the church, that branch Sabbath School, to embrace the literature ministry. And something struck me. I said, I think I would like to try my hands. I want to hit the ground running. I am not a pastor. I don't really know much about the Seventh-day Adventist Church. But if there is something for someone in this, not even the monetary aspect, but the fact that I could begin to do something, to share my faith.
And it had to do with books?
Yes, it had to do with books. So I put up my hand. The pastor was impressed, with whom I was staying. He was saying, oh, this new convert already ready to go into literature ministry. So the publishing director gave me a form which I filled and asked that I went to the mission headquarters then. So I went eventually because the church helped organize, found transport for me, and I went there. It opened a new world. I've never been to Lagos before, I saw the very tall buildings, plenty of cars.
Coming to a new world.
5-lane highway, wow. In Kaduna, the best you could see was a 2-lane highway. So it was a new world. And having gotten to the union headquarters, I met Pastor Caleb Adiogun of blessed memory. He gave me the first ride in my life in Lagos. He took me, I don't know, the way we moved, the others went ahead of me also because I had to go home to tell them I was traveling. Okay. So he took me to the Literature Ministry Seminary, then at Oshodi, Lagos. So we were the first set that moved it to a facility that a family donated to the church in Nigeria at Ilukpeju, and that was where we settled. And met Pastor Onaolapo Ajibade, who eventually became the secretary of the West Central African Division of Seventh-day Adventist Church. He's retired now. So he was the director of the Literature Ministry Seminary. There were 2 of such seminaries in Nigeria, one at Aba and the other one in Lagos. So that was how I got integrated into the literature ministry. It was a good experience at the Literature Ministry Seminary then in 1990. Just my second month of being a Seventh-day Adventist after baptism.
And for how long did you do the literature ministry thing?
Yes, the training usually takes a month or a little after that. After the training, again, it was an opportunity to really read. Okay. Pastor Ajibade introduced me into Seventh-day Adventist Church history. Then, wow, say, where has this church been all these years? And after the training, the assessment was done. The practicals were done. We went into the town to, distribute literature. Yes, and I came tops, overall best. We went to a place, Ogba. Then those in Lagos will know Ogba. Those in Nigeria too. It was just a branch Sabbath school. So we went there. That was where the graduation took place. And others left, but I decided to stay for another 3 months with Pastor Ajibade. And then we conducted Revelation seminar. In fact, prospects I invited who were my customers came, and many of them got baptized. So it was a thrilling experience. I remember Brother Patrick, I don't know where he is now, was one. So I said, oh, so it means I could also share
through me,
and others would get baptized. So that was the experience at the Literature Ministry Seminary. I stayed, canvassed for 3 months in Lagos. Then something very interesting happened from home.
Which we'll get to very soon. And then from Ilupeju, at some point you now had to move back to northern part of Nigeria.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't really plan to move back immediately. I needed to stay under the tutelage of Pastor Ajibade. And I must commend him. He saw the potential in me. I must commend Pastor Onaolakwa Ajibade.
Okay.
He saw the potential in me. He said, some of you will end up in the seminary to study. And incidentally, I was the only person from that cohort
of the whole team
of 1990 that came to the seminary a year or two later. You know, others came in later, but I was the first to show up here.
Okay.
And I will always refer to that. Whatever was said made an impression on me, and so that statement encouraged me. I planned to stay a little bit longer, but we got an urgent message from the north that my mom from the village started becoming agitated, that I was taken to Kenya and that she would never see me again. I have never been to Kenya. She was worried. So a message was sent to the union headquarters, and they went to the seminary and told Pastor Ajibade. So quickly he called me. He said, you got to go back to the north because your mother is troubling the church there, that they have taken her son to an unknown destination.
Okay.
So I quickly went back.
We'll hold the thought right there, and we'll come back to talk about exactly what happened and when you got home, how this all went down. Don't go away. Damascus Encounter. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Damascus Encounter. We're still sharing with Pastor Sunday Didam Audu, who is narrating his experience of what transpired after he joined the Literature Ministry Seminary. Pastor Sunday Audu, so you went back to the northern part of Nigeria. Did you come back afterwards to Lagos?
You know, with the agitation, once I was told that my mother was making trouble for the church. Actually, she didn't know where the church was. So that elder cousin of mine I told you, since he was family, he was the one she pounced on. Okay. And so he, because of some encounters, I told you in the earlier meeting we had that he started visiting the church for about 2 Sabbaths. So he knew some of them were. So she pounced on him, and he went to the to the church members, those he knew, and he told them, and they went to the mission headquarters and told them, and they radioed Lagos. Lagos told. So when I went back, I made sure I bought gifts for her because I made some money from canvassing. Yes. Then I went, I showed her, I did like this. I said, Mom, look, my fingers are complete. I'm the one, touch me, she touched me.
Still human.
Yes. Then I asked for the food we eat, the very local food. You call it tuwo, the miyan karkashi. Right. If there are Hausa viewers, you will understand. So I ate. I said, so you see, I'm still normal. I'm very okay. You know, I greeted everybody. The gifts I took, I shared. I was happy they collected, because they would have said, no, maybe you are using this to initiate us, to charm us. So after staying a week with her or so, she saw that I didn't change. I didn't transmute into something.
Still her son.
Yes, I ate whatever everyone was eating. I spoke the dialect, so they knew I was okay. After a week, I went back to the mission headquarters in Jos and told them I wouldn't be coming back to Lagos again. So I was asked to choose where to work. I asked the publishing director possible places. He mentioned I chose to go to Bauchi. Yes, why did I go to Bauchi? I had an uncle there. He was the regional coordinator for the Navigators. The Navigators is a ministry, I think from Colorado. So that is involved in campus ministries and other things like that. So he was covering the tertiary institutions around the northeast zone. All right. And he was staying in Bauchi there. Because accommodation, I didn't know anybody, so he was family. I went to him, Mr. Bulus Bosan, and he took me in. So it was under his roof. He gave me a place to stay. I started canvassing in Bauchi. The year 1991 through early 92. There was no pastor there. Look at me. Yes, it was a branch Sabbath school, so I doubled up as the pastor. You know, people were calling me pastor. I say, wow. But one thing I found about the Seventh-day Adventist Church is that all power and authority does not reside
in the pastor.
You know, you could see participatory ministry. It was a new thing. Now, when I was thinking, contemplating, struggling while still in the Anglican Church to become a Seventh-day Adventist, I had a dream. Before going to see my reverend, you know, I used his textbook. Yeah. I had a dream one night that I was walking to the outskirts of the town. I saw a very big church looking like a cathedral. I went in there, the music was super. The ambience of the environment was inviting. I, you know, stepped in, looked at it, then continued walking. I went to a more secluded part of the town or another area, somehow marshy in the dream. Then I saw something like a shed, just a small structure. And I went in. I saw people sitting down, quietly discussing, singing in hushed tones, but I was captivated by the simplicity, the fellowship, the gathering. It was later I realized God was showing me a contrast where I was coming from and where I will be going to. The structure, the building was not appealing, but the fellowship, you know, I don't know how to describe. Later when I started attending church, Seventh-day Adventist Church, I saw that was what God was showing me. So it was something like that in Bauchi, just a small. So I realized that everybody was a minister. So that made it, because from my background, if you are to be a pastor, you will lead the worship, you will preach, you will administer. But here I noticed there were elders, Sabbath school superintendents, Sabbath school secretaries, Sabbath school teachers. So it was easy for me. So while doing literature ministry, I was strengthening my feet. A very challenging experience was to canvass and do literature ministry to the Muslims. Okay. But somehow God opened doors of encouragement. The Muslims were very receptive. I want to cite two experiences. Okay. The Commissioner of Justice and Attorney General of Bauchi State bought some books from me. But what did he do? He first had to check and check and check and check. He had children, he wanted youth empowerment books. So he bought, and a marriage book, he checked. He saw scripture passages. He looked at me, he said, you are very smart, You know, you want to sell books to we Muslims. Very captivating and attractive title. Subject matter, superb. Now, this is a very learned gentleman, but skillfully you've inserted scripture passages so that while reading, we cannot help but see those things. He was looking at me and smiling. He said, how much is this? What I told him, he would take this, he would flip. He emptied my bag.
Wow.
And he paid. You know, I was afraid he would throw me out of his office. He paid, and we became friends. We met one who was very hostile in the Code of Conduct Bureau. He said, yeah, what do you do? He showed. He said, youth book? Yeah. Where are these books coming from? He looked, Review and Herald, Pacific Press. He said, from America. God damn America.
Wow.
Go to hell, America. You want to teach us how to raise our youth when yours are in the streets walking naked, taking drugs? God damn America. To hell with America. He sent us out of his office, you know. So you see different reactions. But the literature ministry was interesting because it made one to see different sides of people. It prepared me for pastoral work.
And then eventually, let's fast track to how you now decided to come to the seminary for proper ministry.
Yes, when I left secondary school, I didn't have the complete qualifications at the ordinary level school certificate to go to a tertiary institution. But when I started canvassing, I made some money, and it occurred to me, Pastor Ajibade had said some of us will end up in the seminary. So I bought books and the syllabus to read. So every evening after work, after coming back from the school certificate exams, I read. And I sat for the external exams and passed. December of 1991, the results came. So by January, since I was the de facto pastor of Bauchi Church, I went to the mission headquarters to collect the Sabbath School quarterlies for the new year, being a new quarter. So when I got there, I met the publishing director, Pastor Elisha Kimba, and said, sir, he greeted me, how is Bauchi? I said, sir, I sat for WAEC and I made my papers. Glory be to God. He said, oh, wonderful. Go share that with the mission secretary, Pastor Yakubu Musa of blessed memory. I went. I said, oh, Pastor, the publishing director asked me to share this good news. I sat for my papers and I made it. He said, really? Go see the president, share that with him. I went to the president, Pastor Ezekiel Magaji of blessed memory. I met him in the office sorting some things from his filing cabinet. He greeted me. Oh, that is his nature. Yeah, oh, exactly. Audu, how are you? Yeah. How is Bauchi? He asked after several people there. I said, fine. I came for Sabbath School quarterlies for the new quarter. Oh, that is wonderful. God bless you. I said, thank you, sir. I said, and sir, I want to share the good news. I sat for the ordinary level exams and I passed. He stood there. He said, oh, you made your credits? I said, yes. He pulled from a file. We didn't arrange for that. He pulled a form. He said, fill this form. You will go to ASWA. I said, what? That was a Tuesday.
ASWA. That's
ASWA Seminary of West Africa. Okay. Yes. Adventist Seminary of West Africa. I also heard about it. So he said, you will go to ASWA. He gave me the form. I took the form. A Tuesday, January 5th, 1992. I filled the form, went to Bauchi that very day, dropped the quarterlies, packed my things, left for the village. On the 6th of January, a Wednesday, told them, look, I've gotten admission, I'm going to school. By the 7th of January, I was on the campus of the Adventist Seminary of West Africa, which is today Babcock University. That was how I started my journey as a student here. Ran through the seminary, and by 1996, I was out. For the first time.
And that's a wonderful testimony, because at the end of the day, you were mission-sponsored, I believe.
Yes. I must thank the crop of leadership. Maybe because I was a convert, they gave me that kind of executive, considerate treatment. But I got to know that it's the practice of the church to empower, people who are called for service, yes. Because I was not a mission worker. I was given a letter, which I brought to Pastor Babalola, then the Nigerian Union secretary. And he gave me a letter straight to ASWA, to the Adventist Seminary of West Africa, under the leadership of Pastor Adekunle Alalade. And I was put on church scholarship. The union, sponsored part of, what the policy allows. And through canvassing, we made up the balance. It was a good experience. I was not employed by the denomination then. I was not.
Understand.
My employment came 1996 after I was done.
Graduated.
So I found I am really very grateful to the Seventh-day Adventist Church for that show of love and acceptance
and training
opportunity to be empowered, and taught me also how to sustain myself through the literature ministry.
And the Lord God has been good to you, and He brought you through so much travel today that today you have a PhD in, you want to share?
Yes. I left here in 1996, went back to the north, where I was given my first church and district in Zaria. Of course, my wife, I met her there. Okay. She was a student of the Ahmadu Bello University. Wow. So we worked there. While here, I got involved in campus life. I was Students Association president, which today we call the Babcock University Students Association. Then we call it the Adventist Seminary of West Africa Students Association, as WASA. After my term, I was engaged by the university as a resident dean assistant. Okay. And by my final year, many thanks to Professor Chiemela Ikone, he engaged me to begin to teach in the pre-degree. Then we called it pre-sem. So I was already part of, these were wonderful opportunities the church gave me. Was it a favor or was it a potential they saw? I didn't know. But these opportunities were given me. So with this background, I worked in the church in the north as a pastor for 5 years. I was recalled back to Babcock.
To Babcock.
Then it was a university. It became a university then. So I came again, went through the master's degree in religion, again with the support of the university. I paid just a little fraction, a percentage of that. Then the PhD, after a degree, a master's degree in religion, the first being theology and history, religion, then I went for a PhD in political science. Again, the university supported by giving a 50% rebate. So I want to say, I'm not sure someone has enjoyed grace, support, favor from the Seventh-day Adventist Church as I have. And I have dedicated my time to encourage others to really work very hard, to give their best to the church, to empower others, so that it's not only by doctrinal teachings, but by tangible empowerment that people can experience the reality of being a Seventh-day Adventist.
And by the grace of God, today you are the Vice President, Student Development for Babcock University.
Yes.
Still grooming and raising young people.
Exactly. Now, not only that, interestingly enough, before becoming the Vice President, Students Development, I was the university pastor, to pastor the entire university.
Over 10,000 students.
Yes, mine, I would say, has been a journey of grace. Opportunities to serve, opportunities to work. And today, as the Vice President, Students Development, overseeing over 10,000 students, being a parent of these students is a Herculean responsibility. And how do you go through that? Always ask yourself, if Jesus will be in your position, what will he do? So, by my work with Jesus, by God's grace, I will try to be the voice of Jesus to as many as I meet. I will be the hand of Jesus to as many as will interact with.
Thank you very much for sharing this wonderful experience and how we bring it all together of what Jesus did after you encountered him and he led you all the way. May the Lord continue to bless you and keep you, bless your family, and bless your ministry.
Thank you very much.
That will be all on today's edition of the Damascus Encounter. Very interesting and intriguing story we've listened to in the last 3 weeks, and we see what God can do to anyone who submits to God and is ready to follow. Until next time, when we bring you another edition and another guest on the program, I want to say remain blessed and keep trusting God, because your miracle is just on the way.